Yes guys, today we've got another cool project in the shop. It's an Austin Healey 100. Now this guy's been a good customer of mine for many years, and today it's in for a good service check over. I've worked on this car quite a few times. Original carburetors were took off and I replaced them with the Le Mans kit. So I believe that's from a H4 to a H6. I replaced the exhaust with the Le Mans kit, another big bore one. It was also fitted with obviously the usual upgrades. It's had a 123 ignition put in it, uprated coil, just to make it a little bit more reliable, because you don't want your points buggering up on such a nice car. Since all the upgrades last year, he informs me it's been very reliable, running really well around track and on the road. But like I said, he's only brought it in this week to do a bit of preventative maintenance, a nice oil change, spark plugs, good check over, grease everything up. I'm also going to make sure that I whip the wheels off, check all the suspension and brakes, give them a little adjust up and a little fettle, make sure everything's all right. Now you've got a brief history on this car. Let's get it on the ramp and get cracking. Now I think we'll start by removing the wheels. These have got the center spinners, popular on a lot of old classic cars. There is proper hammers that you can use for these. There's fiber hammers, copper hammers, whatever they are. But there's nothing better than a good old piece of wood and a hammer. So we'll crack these off. And they just spin right off. Okay, now all the wheels are off. I'm going to start by removing all the drums. That way we can get to the wheel cylinders, check the condition of them, make sure they're not leaking, and also we can adjust them all up as well. So here we go. After a bit of swearing and jiggery pokery, I can finally get the drum off. Now, inside we've obviously got the brake shoes. They're all pretty good. Looks like it's had some new cylinders in the past, so we've not got to worry about them bad boys. Both not leaking, both looking really good. I think we can just give this a nice little clean up. Chuck the drum back on and adjust it up. Now the way you adjust these up is obviously the drum's back on now, nice and solid. There'll be two bolts on the back, and they both have like a little worm gear. Moves the shoes in and out. Let's see if we can get it on there now. So there will be a big nut here and another one down here. Now the way you adjust them up is make sure that they're all loose first. Spins freely. You want to tighten it until the drum stops, then nip it off very slightly until it just brushes. And again, same for the bottom one. Lock it up and take it off. There, it's like just like that. And that's it. Job done. Now it's a similar story for the rear actually. First thing got to do with this one though, unfortunately, is whip off the hub. It's got the same kind of bolts on nuts as the front ones. And behind here we've got two big flathead screws, so we'll get them out. And this just holds the drum onto the hub itself. They're not necessarily tight, nicely greased. Somebody's been in here before, pretty recently. and that's it, drums off. Again, all brand new. Shoes look fantastic, no leaks. The adjustment for this one is at the rear. It's very slightly different to the front one. The front one's got 2 bolts. This has just got one. It's got like a, if I can show you. Whereabouts is it? Yeah, there we go. So it's just got one square bolt that screws in and out. And that actually just pushes this in and out, which makes these go wider or smaller. So we'll adjust them up when the jump's back on, but I'm super happy with the condition of everything. So yeah, all back together. Jump's back on, screws are back in, everything's looking good. So we'll just adjust this one up. You can't really hear any of the friction material touching, so I think we'll go around a nip and see if it adjusts up. You just do a quarter turn on this screw. There. You can now just about hear the friction material touching. We could go one more and see how it feels, but I doubt we're going to get another one on it. So we'll try another quarter turn. And that's locked up. So we know now that back off one. And that's where the brake's going to be. Wheel back on, good to go. And again, same for the other side. Right, that's it. All wheels are back on. I've tightened these down with a rubber mallet. Obviously, I'm going to give them a couple of knocks just to make sure they're solid. I'll do that on all 4 corners and then again when it's on the floor just to make sure it's all good. Now that the brakes are done, it's time to chuck it up in the air and have a look underneath. Okay, we're up and under on the ramp now. Nice check over. It will start at the front. It all looks really well. Suspension looks good. It's had poly brushes in the past. What I'm going to do though is go through all our grease nipples. There's a lot of grease nipples on this car. There is 1 or 2 little oil leaks, but our man knows about that. Gearbox as well. I've just popped out the fill plug up here and stuck my finger in, and it's pretty low. So what we're going to do, I've gone ahead and spoke to the customer, and he said we're going to drain it, fill it back up again, all nice and fresh. Moving backwards again, more grease nipples everywhere. Notice a little split pins come out of the handbrake mechanism, so I'll chuck one of them in. Differential oil again is a little bit low, but I'll top that up. That's not a problem. The main thing that I've seen, unfortunately, is the battery. The battery's loose. Looks as if this bracket here, same as this one on this side, looks as if this bracket here is actually broken loose and the battery's been sitting on the differential. I think it might be leaking a bit of acid. So I'll have to box that up, get a new battery for it as well, and yeah, go from there. So I think I'll start by greasing stuff up and draining some oils. There we go. Okay, I've got my grease gun at the ready. I'm going to start at the front, work my way back, and see how many of these grease nipples we can lubricate with all this nice grease. That's as many as I can see. I think I counted maybe 10, something like that. So yeah, that's definitely good. They definitely needed doing. Okay, that's everything done underneath that we need to right now. We've got a plan of action for the gearbox and the battery and the rear diff. So once we get parts for that, we'll fix them up. But yeah, let's go up top and start on the engine. Now we'll begin the oil change, obviously by dropping the oil and then pulling off the filter, which is up here as well. So we'll go through that as well. We'll start off with the engine oil though. It looks like this engine has the magnetic sump plug, so we'll just check the condition of that. Looks like there's some crap on it. Give it a wipe off, see if there's any shite on it. Oh yeah, little bit of stuff, nothing out of the ordinary. Now I thought while I was just under here, I'd go grab my EP90's top up and I'll just fill up the differential at the back. Got a little funnel. And there we go. Oh, make sure I've got as much to can in. I'll just double check the level at the top up. Should be able to feel it with your finger. And yeah, there it is. Nicely topped up. And last but not least, pop the fill plug back in. Screw it in. And give it a little nip. Done. And obviously once the oil's finished draining, pop your fill plug back in. Yes, I have replaced the washer. And give it a good old nip. And there we go. Now the way this oil filter works, it's actually got the element inside this canister. So to get it off, you actually undo this bolt with your bucket underneath, obviously, because you don't want to make a mess. You give it a little wiggle, it should start to come out. It might take a little bit of manhandling to get it out, but with a bit of careful manoeuvring, we might be able to make as least of a mess as possible. Looks like we're doing good. We can come out over here. And there we are. Complete with the old oil filter inside. Nice. And while I'm under here, I thought I might as well drain the gearbox oil as well, ready for the new oil to go in. We're going to start by undoing the drain plug, and then obviously take out the overdrive as well. Now the reason you remove both, obviously one is to drain the gearbox oil here, the main oil, but this actually shares the same gearbox oil as this. So the oil is shared between them. And inside here, there is a gauze. And you can maybe just see a little bit of crap on the gauze. We'll make sure that's all cleaned off and good to go before we put the plug back in. Okay, so that's our gauze all cleaned up inside here. No more crap on that. And also there's two magnets in there that will obviously collect any particles of metal that may come down into the sump. They're all cleaned up as well. So we're all good to pop this back on and give it a nip. Come on, nice and slow. Give it a nice little, and that should be it. Good to go. Don't forget to check the sump plug for any crap. Give it a clean out. And pop that back in as well. So that's all good, drained, cleaned out, ready to go again. I'll give this a nice swizz off. Some brake cleaner. And that's good to get filled up. Okay, oil filter's had time to drain now, so we'll get on to giving this a nice clean up. I'll try and make as least mess as possible. Now, these old canister type oil filters. They work by putting the oil filter in here, but inside here they actually have a number of things that sits on the bottom of the oil filter. There's a little washer there that holds that up, and then there's a spring as well, just to keep the oil filter nice and tight up against the housing. Now everything else comes out this way. You'll have a bolt that pops out. So there's the big main bolt that holds everything in place. Now we can get on to giving this a nice clean. Good old brake cleaner. Give it a nice switch around. Get your hand in there. Get any crap out of the bottom that might be there. You can just see inside there, there's a bit of crap. Beautiful. Ta-da. I'll give our bolt a nice clean up. Give the spring a nice clean. The plate that holds in the oil filter. Okay, time to rebuild. First in will be our bolt. Nice and secure. Then there'll be our spring, washer, and finally the plate. That's now ready to accept the new oil filter and go back on. While we're on the subject of the oil filter, I just thought I'd show you the one last thing that we'll need swapping out before we can put the oil filter back in. So this is where the oil filter sits. This is where the bolt goes through. And round here is an O-ring that we'll need to change. I'll show you how to get it out. So from underneath, you should be able to get in a small pick. You should just be able to see your ring pop out from around it. It is very fiddly to get to. You can see why they do change to a more modern style oil filter, because this is a lot of hassle just to change an oil filter. So now, as you can see, the old one is out. And when I get the new one tomorrow, I can pop that back in and the oil filter can go back on. Back up top now, just about to take the spark plugs out, and look who's come to visit. There he is. Hello. Yes, it's Benny. Benny the shop dog. Okay, I think we'll finish off today by just removing the spark plugs ready for tomorrow. What we're going to do tomorrow is obviously finish off the service. I've just ordered some more oil for the gearbox, so that should be coming tomorrow or the day after. But either way, we've got parts coming for the engine definitely tomorrow. We've got new spark plugs coming. We've got new oil filter, new oil. So we might as well just use the last bit of time we've got today. We might as well just use the last bit of time we've got today before it gets too dark, just to prepare for obviously the new parts coming tomorrow, and then we can crack on. I think I'll also check inside the distributor cap. Yes, it's got a 1, 2, 3 distributor. Well, them spark plugs look good. That means it's been running real nice. Look at them, nice and sandy. So yeah, anyway, I'll still pop off the cap of the 1, 2, 3 ignition, because you'd be daft not to. I know it's a fit and forget distributor with the electronic ignition in it, but that doesn't mean that your distributor cap doesn't get corroded inside. And obviously you've got the rotor arm as well, which you've got to check the condition of, just make sure everything's all right. Right, so that's it. Spark plugs are all out, looking really good. And as you can see outside, it's absolutely pitch black, so I think it's about time I went home. Okay, brand new day. It's light again, and we got some parts. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we went for new oil filter, 4 new spark plugs, NGK BP6ES, and obviously 2 gallon of the best quality Castrol motor oil money can buy. Okay, so we're going to start off up top by installing the new spark plugs. First thing you need to do is definitely check your gap, just in case it's been damaged in transit. And obviously start fitting the nice new spark plugs that we took out last night. And there we go, nice new spark plugs fitted. Let's get onto the oil filter. Here's our new oil filter. Part number is BFO4114, and you'll see that it comes with a nice new O-ring. If you remember, we pulled it out the top. We'll chuck that in before this goes back on. It doesn't matter which way this goes up, so you can just pop it back in your oil filter housing. You can see how the spring in the bottom pushes it up, so it keeps a nice tight seal. So yeah, that's ready to go back on. We'll chuck this in, get that bolted up, get some oil in it. Now this bit is a little bit difficult to film, but I think you can get the gist of it. I've just inserted the new O-ring with a little screwdriver just to push it up into the groove. And now if I can get the oil filter in, I always like to make sure that the bolt is down while you're pushing it in. And you can make sure that it's nice and central. I also like to push a bit on the spring so that the oil filter housing is actually mating with the O-ring, and then I can start threading in our bolt. And finally, you can tighten it down. Nice little nip, not too tight. Don't want to go damaging anything. Now as you can see, the oil filter is on. Nicely sealed up, new O-rings, new filter. We're good to go. Alrighty then. Next thing on the list, fill up the oil. I think it takes around 6 litres, maybe a little bit more. So what we're going to do is pop off the oil filler, obviously. And as usual, we find a Vaudrey's beer mat. Subscribe if you like this stuff, give us a comment, and obviously like the video as well, it really helps out. Cheers. Now let's get the oil in. That's our oil all topped up. It took a while, so I didn't film all of it, but as you can see, it's up to the maximum mark now, so we'll leave that as it is until we've ran the car up to get all the oil round into the oil filter and that, and then we'll re-dip again once it's all sorted. Like I said, what we're going to do as well is just check the condition inside the distributor cap itself. Make sure it's all looking nice. And carefully just bend it up and have a look inside. Yeah, contacts are looking good. We can also pop off the distributor arm itself and check the condition of that. And that's all good, so we'll pop all that back together. We're good to go with that. Let's fill up the gearbox oil. Now to actually get to the gearbox oil filler, you can do it from underneath with a special tool, but there's also a little inspection hatch inside here. This is going to be really difficult to film, so you probably won't see much, but you can at least get an idea of where the fill actually is. What we'll do is remove the screw, pop off the inspection hatch, and as you can see, there's your fill. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and popped in a little funnel to help us fill it up. As you can see, this is not what I'm putting in, but it is a clean bottle, and I'm going to measure out 3.5 litres. I've done a bit of research, that's how much it takes, but we'll obviously double check with levels and stuff afterwards. But yeah, this is going to take a while, so bear with me. Many moons later, you join us on the final bottle. I'm going to fill it up with this, whip out the funnel and do the finger dip test as well, and make sure you've got plenty of rags knocking about in the footwell, because you don't want to get this crap everywhere. It is a very messy job. Stay tuned. Now, as expected, fill up until it overflows and you're good to go. Turns out we don't need to do our finger dip test because it is level fill with the exact amount in, which is good to know. Last thing to do, pop your plug back in, tighten it up, we'll give that a nip, and that's the gearbox done. Right, that's it. You join us back up top rather than being in a little cramped footwell. We'll just go through what we've done. Obviously, we've done all the brakes, we've checked all the axles, we've greased all points, we've cleaned up the gearbox gauze, we've dropped the oil out of the overdrive, fully dropped all the oil out of the gearbox as well. We've dropped the oil out of the engine, replaced the filter, replaced the spark plugs, checked all the ignition. Yeah, I think we're good for a fire up. What we'll do, we'll let it run for a little while, let the oil circulate. I'll probably put it in gear as well. Just go through the gears to get all the new oil going around in the gearbox. And then we'll recheck levels and it should be good to go. So as you can see there, I just went through all the gears, clicked in the overdrive, make sure it was kicking in. Oil's all gone round everything now, so we'll let it cool down, we'll re-dip all the levels and we're alright. Just chucked it back up in the air. A nice little check to do once you've run it up is obviously check your oil filter housing all around, make sure there's no leaks coming out from running it up, and it looks dry as a bone. Okay, that concludes the service. What I'm going to do is drop it down off the ramp, re-dip all the levels, top up if necessary. I am going to address the battery issue, not on this video, because this one I was hoping just to do it as a good full service on a Healey 100. I couldn't actually find any others on YouTube, any information about these things, or any servicing videos or anything like that, so hopefully this will help out some people in the future. So yeah, I hope you like watching this video. If you liked it that much, subscribe, press like, chuck us a comment. This one will be back on the road, and I'll see you on the next project.